Hey everybody, Mike and John with Did You Know Anime here. We're doing another commentary. Don't you love doing these commentaries, John?
I love doing these commentaries, Mike. So let's do that.
Yeah, well, it's funny because like every time we go back to these, it's usually it's like a refresher. It's like we're watching these again for the first time. And I'm particularly excited about this season just because of the people that we had and the things that we talked about. And I say let's get this thing started. Let's light this candle.
Let's do this thing. Yeah, let's get married. I mean, let's do this. Do this friggin' commentary. Let's do it
Tonight.
Did you know Soul Eater was inspired by Harry Potter?
So here we are, kicking off season 5, and I believe this premiered on Halloween.
It did. Yep.
That was awesome. As was getting John Swayze to do this. I've met him once or twice, and he's very nice. He's always nice to fans, and so he was willing to do this. Very gracious of him, and I loved Soul Eater. I watched the dub of it, and I think he was perfectly cast as Lord Death, because he could be funny, but also very ominous and serious if he needs to be.
The funny thing with John is you hear him talk normally like this, and he usually does not get cast in a normal speaking role. His voice is usually much higher, like with Lord Death, just because his ability to, make all of those goofy voices.
Mm-hmm. And Lord Death does give him opportunity to do that. I remember here, not being super up on Friday the 13th, my friend Phil pointed that one out to me. He's also a Soul Eater fan, and did a podcast with him on that. That was a good time. And Soul Eater, if you haven't seen it, can't recommend it enough. As you see here, you've got Harry Potter, Tim Burton, Twin Peaks thrown in there, just all kinds of stuff. And I was really impressed with what he said here too. I was not meaning to be mean to any One Piece fans, but I think I'm not saying One Piece is guilty of that. I have not seen or read much One Piece, but I do agree with his sentiments there of don't just keep going to keep going, whatever it is you're doing. I personally am very in favor of the storytelling type of I told my story, and that's it. It's all the time you get with these characters right now. Even wanting a little bit more.
Well, I think one of the things with Shonen series in particular is they have a penchant for just going ridiculously long in the tooth, absolutely taking as much time as possible, and Soul Eater very much does not do that, and that's kind of nice, because aside from the style, the Soul Eater does have a lot of typical archetypes of shonen, but even just having the style difference be what it is, that is enough to make it stand out, make it unique. You think about horror almost gets, especially like this with Halloween and the Halloween type thing, it's very Western. It's, the Japanese don't celebrate Halloween as a, nationalistic holiday like we do.
It's not the same. Yeah, you're right. So
while her magical hat is wand, sometimes shortened.
Yeah, I loved everything about it. I probably said a lot of that on aforementioned podcast. I love the art style of it. A lot of little references like these. Speaking of, Okubo's probably about that age when I was, finding this stuff out. I'm like, yeah, that's about right. Kind of like you look at Iraqi's favorite bands like J. Giles and Cars, and yeah, that's about right. Still not seen. They really kind of made it look more conventionally moe, and I'm not hating on that, but I was really disappointed because I'm like I like Okubo's style. It looks very different and distinct, and that was one of the things that drew me to Soul Eater. And then no, we're not going to do that. It's like, okay. But, of course, the sort of demographic blending that we have now, more so now, I think Okubo was, along with stuff like Fullmetal Alchemist, I think was a big part of that.
I'll be honest with you, and I'm sure some of the people listening will be like, I did not finish Soul Eater. I got super early in, and I got to Black Star, and Black Star made me want to rip my eyeballs out, and so I just stopped.
You watching it? Was it his dub voice, or was it just
his both? It was his dub voice and his character. I felt like he was such a reprehensible prick. And he got to win anyway. I was totally rooting for the villain guy, that samurai guy he was against. And when he lost, I was just like, well, F this. I don't want to go. I want to keep going.
And, he's certainly a strong element. Abrasive, but I came to like it. But once again, thank you, Mr. Swayze. I have yet to see that. I remember him pitching this now. Perfect Con.
It's an animated movie that
and I'm not talking about my neighbor Con either. I'm talking about that Genghis Khan, I tell you what.
As a matter of fact, John is actually running his own convention now called Anime Dallas.
Wow! Oh man, I didn't know it was his own convention. Man.
Yeah, he sent me a request to like, and I'm like, oh, this is interesting.
Very cool.
And then I clicked on it, and then it was like, I went to their page, and I was like, oh, John Swayze runs the con. He's the con head, which is kind of unique, because I think he might be one of the first voice actors ever to run a con.
That sounds like him, though. He loves interacting with fans. So these are fun going back to, because I don't remember what all is in them, and I think that's also what gets a lot of people to click on these, admittedly, because you go, oh, unreleased, or what could it be? It's kind of a mystery box.
The unreleased animes are always some of my favorite ones doing, and Escape from New York and Escape from LA are two of my favorite movies. So being able to talk about that stuff was really cool. I think it's kind of interesting because, it's obviously interesting. Just like you see some of these projects that have these all-star casts, like in previous past ones, we had, Shinichiro Watanabe was a part of one and it fell through. And you just think to yourself, like, how can these fail? How can these supergroup type series that have all of these great names associated with it, how can they fail? Especially, like we're looking at now, where they get so far into development and they have big names associated with it. Like Kurt Russell was going to play Snake in the Snake anime, and then it just fell apart.
It's amazing how these kinds of things do highlight how tenuous those sorts of endeavors are, and all the interrelated business imperatives that have to align. The stars kind of have to align. Maybe pun intended. I don't know. Maybe movie stars, but to get something actually all the way accomplished, it's a heck of an undertaking.
It's also, especially, talk about an undertaking, a lot of stuff with unreleased anime is very, you don't even realize it, or people don't even realize it at the time when somebody like Matt Greenfield will talk about, oh, we're working on this series, and then it just never shows up again, and it's just like, what? And then 10 years later, somebody will find, cells of it, or, production material for it, and it's kind of unreal.
I don't know if this is true or not, but I'm just now kind of getting the impression of, because remembering when ADD would do that kind of stuff, and you had magazines and wanting to hype upcoming stuff, and I know there's still a lot of that now, but it seems like, like Funimation, for example, like doesn't do that as much if they're not sure that it's going to happen, because then that's the other side of that coin is what happens if it falls through. We get a bunch of fans ticked off because they were expecting something coming down the pike, and then something happens, which, we can very much, I think, sympathize with that. We never want to tease something unless we know it's going to happen, because we don't want to set ourselves up in that way, and we don't want to do that to people. So I can understand that.
Well, I think back in the day, too, it was a combination of things. Like Matt Greenfield, if he announced something in 2001, there wasn't as many people seeing that press release. And then Matt Greenfield, too, in particular, if you've ever gone to one of his panels, he is very pro DIY. He has a very punk rock attitude. So, I'm sure he got his hands, as soon as he got some of that Evangelion money, he got his hands in a lot of pies trying to do now what Netflix is doing, what Crunchyroll is doing, what Rooster Teeth is doing. He was trying to make quote-unquote original anime that he could basically never lose the license to because he was a co-producer in it. And unfortunately, he did it at the right intention, wrong time.
I was just going to say, maybe he was just a little ahead of his time in that way.
I would also like to see Miss Suzuki and Miss Konishi on board the coming project. Manami Konishi, the voice actress for Scarlet, chimed in afterwards, "I hope I will still be able to do a girl's voice in 2 years. It was never
So this is
specified whether each work would be a
Prosy
TV
D,
series or
right?
film, and though both works never got off the
Doing
ground,
this,
the
and
manga was released to coincide
I
with the
just,
release
like
of
so
the
many
film.
on here, I'm just a fan of what he does. He does funny stuff on Twitter all the time. His incredible voice, incredible range, and he's a nice guy. And it's been a pleasure to even since this upload to see how much he's grown in terms of following. And
When we did this, he still only had, I think, 10,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Oh, on YouTube.
Well, that's the thing. This was when Vine had just ended, and I remember seeing him and going, when the internet finds him, he's going to be huge. Like, no questions asked. He will be enormous. And I think Digital Anime's had a very good track history with that. We find somebody, and it's, why are you working with that person who's really small? It's like, because they will be big. They will be huge.
Ohara was just starting out. He wasn't exactly finding success. In fact,
And of course, here we are now, Fist of the North Star. This was a great pleasure.
Ohara said, quote,
I'm glad you got Mike Toole to do this. He sounded like, he's very,
depending on the results of the reader survey.
personally, I think, enthusiastic when it comes to the subject matter, subject material.
I thought my career was over.
I think I saw some comments, but more were in favor, appreciative, and some were just kind of observational, that like, oh, you didn't mention JoJo's in here. And all that. Well, we've done JoJo's episodes, and that's a really cool fact. But Fist of the North Star, it stands on its own.
Well, there's plenty to talk about. Like, it's not, you don't need to add JoJo onto that, as cool as that is, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about in Fist of the North Star. And Mike's voice, I love Mike's voice. I went back and listened to it again before watching this, and I was just like, wow, he has a phenomenal narrator voice. Like, it was perfect.
He wanted me to work on another story. Talk about a second chance.
Yeah, if you're listening to this, Mike, do something on, do something with Ken Burns or something. I'd love to
do audiobooks.
Hear you narrating something about the Civil War or something. That'd be great. I mean that in all sincerity.
In English, centering around major story arcs of the
Heck,
show.
Mike could read a soup label. It would probably be more interesting than it otherwise would be.
But unlike said series, these Fist of the North Star movies,
this was great, and this kind of thing happens in film history and stuff, just where copies of something will end up. And it's so fun, because anybody who is an expert in that field, or who has been, doing archival work for a very long time, they'll all tell you the same thing. It's like the only known variable is that you have no idea. It will always be a surprise to you. I mean, I remember, like, it's getting to be maybe 10 years ago now, they found missing scenes from Metropolis in Argentina, And, you know, it's just, and people, you know, it's like that Ed and Eddie, why this suit? Why these chains? Why Argentina? Why Italy? You know, it's just, you never know why that ends up happening, but it's always fun when you stumble across something like this.
Yeah, this was actually one of, there are a couple of different facts that I found that were, I wouldn't necessarily say the genesis to Did You Know anime, but this one was one that always stuck out in my mind because I love Fist of the North Star, and the idea that somehow, by some crazy way of shenanigans, that Italy got a hold of a print that nowhere else in the world has, even Japan. Like, Japan doesn't have it. And you always have these crazy ideas, like with Nosferatu, the original, kind of the original copy of Dracula. The only reason we know of it and it survives today is because somebody snuck a copy out. So it always makes me wonder if someone didn't get invited to Toei and somebody immediately was like, yoink, give me that, I want that, and they just never... They didn't know that it was gone because they were big and didn't keep track of it anyway. So who knows? I'm sure there's a crazy story there.
A number of antagonist characters are.
And if it, I don't want to accuse anybody of anything, but if that is the case, then no wonder you're never gonna. We're never gonna hear that.
Oh sure. Well, and you would never remaster it.
You never admit to that. You know, you never.
The two most striking are Basque and
Because if Italy remastered it, then somebody would be like, "Hey, wait a minute, how'd you get that?"
Timmy Turner Internet.
The early prints of the manga, Basque refers to Barona, one of his underlings, insensitively, causing subsequent prints of the anime and manga to change or remove the line entirely. Which,
Brother,
incidentally enough,
This feels like it was
own racially charged
ages ago. But when was that? That would have the Hulk Hogan and all that. That would have been
2015?
Really?
2016? Yeah, because we did the video after the whole controversy had happened, I believe.
Yeah. So man, it's crazy that it feels like forever ago.
Inspiration for Joggy's mask from Star Wars. At first, I was taking stuff directly out of Mad Max 2 and using that as inspiration. But eventually I started to go with my own designs to make...
I love seeing, because everybody's inspired by stuff, and so I love seeing individual creators on where do they see themselves on that spectrum of homage, you know, oh, this is completely my original thing, and, you know, he's just like, I was just drawing these characters. I was basically just taking them and, you know, but making it his own thing.
Japan has been has had a storied history of doing stuff like that, whether it's video games, whether it's anime, and more nowadays they do it less and they do it more as like a direct, oh, this is a reference to this because of the internet and whatever. Whereas back in the day, it was like, oh, I'm really a big fan, like Streets of Fire. Like, it felt like literally everybody in the 80s was like, I'm going to make my own version of Streets of Fire, and I'm going to make it as hilariously, blatantly obvious that I did that, but nobody cared because what they made out of it was, you know, have become iconic series.
You know, it was a little more esoteric because,
oh, sure.
Again, like, yeah, like, you make it obvious enough, oh, only a fan of, only someone really familiar with Streets of Fire is going to pick up on this.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, just how things change. I still have not seen Utena. I should remedy that someday. I hear nothing but good things about it. And it looks great. It looks charming.
USA licensed Utena with the intent of calling it.
You know, speaking of, I'm sure, or I would guess rather, there's probably been a lot of renewed interest in it from younger folks due to Steven Universe. You know, Rebecca, you know, saying she was very inspired by that and put some little, you know, references here and there.
Dios and Choo Choo kept their names.
Well, even more than references, sometimes she would, you know, take entire fight scenes and put them in Steven Universe. But I think Utena is one of those series that it's kind of like,
all supposedly part of the Seekers of Armageddon.
I don't even really know how to describe it. Like it's a cult classic, but it's a little bit bigger than that, but not big enough that it was this huge thing, you know? Like it's a
English adaptation.
It's really hard to describe. It sits in that really it sits in a middle area. Like it's not so obscure that people need to go looking for it, but it's not Gundam. You know, it's not
like Outlaw Star kind of level.
Oh yeah, or even slightly bigger, even, but not much bigger.
But
you know,
yeah, it's that, like you said, it's not super unknown. People see it. Oh yeah, I've heard of that or whatever, but it's not. So it's got a big fan base, but it's not huge.
Ikuhara said, "There was an idea to use guns in the beginning. There were talks about using guns in the duels.
Oh, Ikuhara.
We were saying that would be bad. The reason why we said
Don't you ever change."
Unfortunately, I think, you know, I can't really speak to it to a large degree because I'm not. I'll be honest, like, the Utena and other things are not necessarily my forte. Like, that's not the first thing I'm going to go watch. But I feel like Ikuhara is one of those guys that he made something really great, but he made it really great because other people were challenging him. And I think that his subsequent series afterwards, like Penguin Drum and the bear one, I forget what that one was called, like Kuma something, they haven't gotten nearly the adulation from fans because it's him unrestricted. You know, there's like in this video, you know, he talks about how he wanted to do it a certain way and somebody told him, no, try it, you know, I want it this way. And because of that, you know, barrier, he had to think and he had to, he was challenged. He had to challenge himself. And we see that with a lot of different people. You know, you think that somebody, if you get rid of that restriction, that it's going to be super great, but that's not always the case. I mean, video game fans will know that Mighty Number 9, they gave Inafune, oh, you don't have to worry about, you know, Capcom anymore. You can make Mega Man however you want. Well, he did, but it very much fell on its face. And so, you know, sometimes you're your own worst enemy.
Yeah, restrictions, they can be very restrictive, but along with that, you know, parameters, be it budget or time or creative, they are constraints, but they can you know, really force you to flex your creative muscles, and so it's a good. It's kind of like we were saying before with DBZ, Toriyama, and his editors with like the Android Saga, like, you know, Mr. Kraft more, and you know, we got Cell out of that because like a good spotter, you know, being like, come on, 3 more. I know you can give me 3 more. And the guy on the bench is going, F you, I can't. And it's like, I know you can, man. Come on. And then, you know, sure enough, they do it, and they're pushing themselves and made some good gains that day. So that's kind of what, it's kind of how it works creatively as well.
I also want to give a shout out here to Nozomi and Right Stuff for the phenomenal special editions that they put out for each of the series that they do, because they go to, like Discotheque, like they put in such a tremendous amount of work for older series that, you know, companies like Funimation don't. Like they make it a point of, if it's a special edition, they're going to make it a special edition. You know, the Utena, the first one, not the Blu-ray set that came out, but the original Ultra edition or whatever that they did, the book and the stuff that they had in that book was phenomenal. Like the amount of work that they put into it and the content that was in there. So keep doing what you're doing, Nozomi.
And as well as Dawn, keep doing what you're doing. That's great. She was willing to do this. I'm sure she was excited to talk about Utena. And you know, I can't think of how long she's been doing anime nostalgia podcast, but she's still at it, and they give a lot of series like this, and I know she did Elzar recently, and some other quote unquote older series like that, giving them some much deserved attention, giving them their due. So check her out.
Dawn, you should start a YouTube channel. You'd be pretty big.
My podcast about older
She
anime
absolutely
and
would be.
manga, and what it was like to be an anime fan before the internet at animenostalgia.blogspot.com, and you can find me on Tumblr at animenostalgia.tumblr.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.
Here we are, Gunsmith Cats already. I love Gunsmith Cats, if some people didn't know. And I am an American. I got into it via the OVA. And there's only 3 OVA episodes, but they're phenomenal. They're a great watch. And, it's somebody who's really, Sonoda, his pedigree speaks for itself in all the other works he has done and been a part of. Gunsmith Cats is really his baby, and it was really a chance for him he loves guns, and he loves old muscle cars, and particularly American muscle cars, and he, in a way that I've heard people say, like a Westaboo, we have weeaboos with people from here or elsewhere, and just kind of have this fascination with Japan because it's so far away and so different. He very much has that with America and American culture, and it's really cool seeing your own culture through someone else's lens like that.
I think one of the other things that's so unique about Gunsmith Cats, because I had not watched Gunsmith Cats, folks, before I did this video. John, of course, was a huge fan, but when I found out that Peter Erskine, who is a legendary drummer, I'm a drummer, and if you are a drummer and get into drumming, you know who Peter Erskine is. It's rare for a Westerner to be a composer for an anime, and like him and Marco D'Ambrosio are the two other. He's one of the other big ones because he did the JoJo OVA, and then Marco did the music for the Bean Bandit thing that they did.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he was the one that they picked to do.
Oh, yeah, that's right. For
the new one.
The new one coming.
And that's really unique in the world of anime to have a Western composer. And also, shout out to way back in the day, ADV for finding and translating these making of videos that they put out in Japan and translating them, because they were stuff like this is amazing. Like it's a documentary. It's a documentary on the making of a series, and you just don't see that often, especially for something as short as Gunsmith Cats.
Mm-hmm. And it was kind of indirectly or somewhat directly, I don't know, but through I'm recalling now, but through doing this and my love of Gunsmith Cats, and then you and I, we put each other on to good stuff.
Oh sure.
So our shared love of that, we had been in touch with Robert of Animego before or something, but then so we just got in touch with him when he was looking to do a Blu-ray release of the OVA, and we said like, hey, we'd love to lend a hand to that if you'd have us, and it worked out, and it should be, by the time you're hearing this, hopefully people have gotten their sets by now. It was so successful, so gosh dang successful, that we had to keep adding stretch goals, and so there was so much stuff that Robert had to pack into that release, and so that caused some delays, but good things are worth the wait, I always say. And that was really a great time. I think also maybe that way as well. Again, thank you, Bennett, for narrating this. I think he also is on the set. I haven't looked yet.
I believe he
He's
did
doing
commentary.
or something. So there you go. You never know what doors something you're working on now will lead to. You know, you can't always, don't expect that, but you never know. That's kind of the fun when you're working on it. Whatever you're doing right now, just put your all into it, and you never know what that'll lead to later. I've had a lot of instances of that.
And if you're somebody who does stuff on YouTube with anime, don't always just do stuff that's new, because you never know, like John just said, when something will inadvertently open a door for you. And this was definitely one of those videos. This video opened a huge door for me and John. And also, before we get done here, watch Riding Bean. It's a one-episode OVA. If you've never seen Riding Bean, it's in the same vein as Gunsmith Cats, but Bean Bandit is the shit. You have to, you will love that OVA.
You gotta watch it. And then we got a new one coming out with short Sonoto's crowdfunding, and can't wait to see that, because it's combined with Gunsmith Cats. So here we are now on the Urusei Yatsura. And speaking of pedigrees, this is probably one I would imagine, hopefully, even if you're a younger anime fan, you know of this series. Maybe you don't even know the name, but you see something like the iconic...
Well, I can guarantee you can't pronounce it.
Yeah, that's... took me a while, but it's one of those things. It's been referenced so many times in subsequent anime, like Lum's costume there, her outfit there, that I'm sure they go, oh yeah, I have seen that. And of course, you know, Rumiko Takahashi. Boy, you just talk about how many home runs she's had. It's crazy.
Every other thing she did was a home run. And it's funny too, you know, like Roxanne, the woman who's narrating this, she voiced Lum in Beautiful Dreamer. Urusei Yatsura has never been dubbed. Well, it's been dubbed a couple episodes, but if you don't want to watch the whole thing, at least watch Beautiful Dreamer, because that one was done by Mamoru Oshii, and it kind of stands on its own, and it's worth watching. It's a good movie.
You know, I love when you have a movie or something and you're a fan of the franchise, you obviously want it to tie in. But I really love movies like that just can stand on their own, and you can kind of just jump in. You can do that with, like, Tenchi movies. You can do that with the Oh My Goddess movie. And I think you can do that with Beautiful Dreamer as well. And I'm conflicted because I really, I'm a fan of Oshii, and I really like his, ain't nobody gonna hold me down attitude as an auteur, dare I say. But I think that was included in here was, like we were kind of saying before, some friction between him and I don't know if it'd be Takahashi directly or somebody through her liaison, but basically this. These creative differences there. And man, I'm rooting for Oshii because him doing things his way, as much as we were talking about constraints before, that's why Ghost in the Shell movie is so good. It's actually, in a lot of ways, very different than Masamune Shiro's tone in his work. But, you feel for Rumiko Takahashi or Masamune Shiro, where it's like, excuse me, I created this thing. I think I get a say in how this goes, so it's always interesting, those sorts of conflicts, but I'm glad they were able to work through it in this case, and we got a great movie out of it.
Indeed, yeah. Well, and it's kind of funny, like, I know a lot of people, if it was anybody else but Oshii, I don't think that people would be as forgiving, but just the fact that he is very much an anime auteur, everything that he touches is pretty much gold, so he's like James Cameron. Like, if he comes in and he wants to mess with your series, just let him do his magic, because the first thing I had heard about from Urusei Yatsura was Beautiful Dreamer, just because of the pedigree that it had, like, oh, you have to watch this movie. Where people talked about it a lot.
I think he's like a Kubrick.
Oh, very much so.
You know, it's where, you feel, especially if you were working for him, you're like, man, he's a perfectionist, he's persnickety, he's strong-willed. But then the results kind of speak for themselves. And because if you're Stanley Kubrick or Mamoru Oshii, you can get away with a lot more than just any average Joe could. They tell you where to stick it if you were not a big personality like that.
Yeah, because the thing that's you guys are now watching and seeing on screen was Oshii when the first movie. He did the first movie, but very much was hamstringed a little bit and very much kind of forced to do what he did not want to do. And so when Beautiful Dreamer came around, he said, all right, nope, we're doing this my way. So
I did it. I got 2 Frank Sinatra songs in one commentary, and neither of them were Fly Me to the Moon. Didn't do that for the Ava one. What's wrong with me?
I love making these.
I love what you do.
Those pictures. Like, I will spend probably more time on those pictures per idea than the actual video itself, just because they're so fun to make.
And we were always very careful about our facts. We do our best. We source them. And then for the entertainment of the viewing experience, I think you've earned a little leeway on having some fun with that. And when you do it, it's pretty obvious where I'm like, I photoshopped this. I'm having some fun. Like, this is not, Tomino chicks dig giant robots. Like, that's.
I would hope that I don't have to ever say that, but there have been a couple of times where I've done it just because, well, not with pictures, but. Actually, no, that's not true. I've done it with a couple pictures just to be even more funny. Like, there's a... But no, I really appreciate Roxanne doing this. I contacted her not long after I got the idea to do it, and she was super on board, and so...
Thank you very much.
She did a good job.
Oh, yeah. Here we go. Durarara. Oh man, I also love Durarara. I watched it because of Bakano, because I love Bakano, and so it's one of those things like, oh, this is from the author of this. You immediately are interested. Like, okay, I'll check that out. And I think it's funny how it ended up working out. I think I was pretty much working on this one, and then you were working on Black Butler, soon to come. And they came out similar-ish time, and so I thought it was just kind of fun to myself seeing which one was, getting more views and stuff. Because I'm not sure which one's bigger. I think if I had to guess, Black Butler, but Durarara was also, Naruto's kind of getting popular as well, and like I said, you get Bakano fans in there. So that was really fun, and then also the 2 narrators who I think are also probably good friends as well. Joey,
Sure.
Thank you for your time doing this, and this was really satisfying. The timing worked out great because I believe it's Yen Press was releasing these the light novels, and so I don't have them all yet, but having the first one when it came out, I saw that forward where he was explaining the name of Durarara, and I was like, oh my gosh, and I think that was kind of the start of the script, because that for a long time, I think you see a lot of the comments, people really didn't know what that meant. It's very understandable, and I think it's one of those things, kind of the internet and people, I'm not saying in an accusatory tone, but I think somebody just made that up. And then everybody went, it's good enough an explanation to me, that must be what it is. And people, so it could also be maybe they heard that somewhere, although I never saw it sourced. And it could be Naruto's kind of messing around in the forward, but that's why we're just telling you, hey, not telling you how to interpret it. I'm telling you, this is what the man said. That's so.
Well, I think a lot of people too, like just looking at the stuff we put in the video, everybody assumes that every author for everything, especially in Japan, is like, he had it mapped out since he was born. He was born with this idea in his head coming out of the womb. And it's like, I don't think you realize, like, one, the deadlines that these people are under, and to have to crank out the amount of words, and or if they're a manga creator, I guarantee you, as someone who also writes, you're a writer, when you're going with the flow, it's sometimes a stream of consciousness. And if someone asks you, oh, why'd you do that? I don't know. I just did. And if it worked out, great. If not, it didn't. And so sometimes you don't want to overthink it. It just is what it is.
Sometimes it's profound how the answer is not so profound.
Exactly.
Oftentimes. I remember like the Muramasa Blade. That was really cool, and it could be out there now, but when I was researching this online, I could not find that anywhere with any like Durarara related outlets. And I just did some research on that blade, and having seen the thing, I'm like, oh, that's basically exactly what that is. Have a little cameo here from Isaac and Miria, which is awesome, and to know why that's so awesome, y'all gotta watch Bakano and then watch Durarara.
And also watch our video that we did on Bakano.
I had initially envisioned Durarara coming out, our video of it coming out sooner, to kind of come after Bakano, but for whatever reason, that just didn't end up happening. So I apologize also to anybody for kind of leaving them on a cliffhanger for a good while, because that was not my intent. I think it all worked out.
You know what they say, it may not be what it is, but it do.
They don't think it is what it be, but it do. Thank you, Mr. The Anime Man.
Mr. Bazinger. Bazinga.
Post anime rants, anime news, and pretty much anything else. So if you like that, then come over to my channel. It's fun times. Yay. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and keep watching anime. Johnny!
Speaking of foreigners, just kidding. From the American perspective.
This one, actually, I want to make a point of this, this video was the first video, like each of the videos, as far as my editing is concerned, it's an evolution from the very beginning, and I made a point when doing this one to look up a couple of different techniques to make things smoother and transition smoother and move around smoother. And so this one was kind of the new prototype for how all digital anime videos would be edited. And I was glad that it was this one in particular, because I think Connor did a great job narrating, and it all just kind of fit in my mind. I don't know that anybody else saw it this way, but in my mind it was very much a turning point in how things were done. And I think the videos as a whole got better editing wise afterwards. Not that they were bad before, but sometimes you don't necessarily notice when things are little like that.
Well, and you're gonna pick up on that more than anybody else.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I'll see something that I've gone back when we started doing these commentaries, looking at older videos, and I'm like, oh my god, how I can't believe. I mean, I can believe that I did that, but
it's the creator's curse. That's normal. You always try to improve, and you do improve if you're continuously doing something. And you're kind of very critical of your own past work, and join the club. Yeah.
This one and Utena were also the beginning of having to flip videos, because for those of you who are probably YouTube creators, not only does YouTube catch things by audio, which is why we don't ever almost use audio in videos from stuff, but also they started getting much more strict with actually how the video was oriented. So if you flipped it, you had a much better chance of not seeing it. So if you see your favorite scene from one of our videos, like, hey, I don't remember him using his left hand, that's why. Because they're getting crafty and smart.
But as are you, because you do more, clips or your own stuff, artwork, and editing sleight of hand, and rather than just a bunch of footage playing. It's like, okay, all right. Speaking of constraints before.
Oh, yeah, well,
all right.
I kind of like that, but no, that's definitely something you notice from earlier videos. Earlier videos are much more heavily on footage, but then, of course, after videos get flagged or blocked, I try to put more emphasis on images, and that also makes it fun for me, because then I get to make chicks dig giant robots and stuff like that, which is fun.
But it's the digital frontier that we're all on, and it's been fun, working that out with, and you'd be surprised, you can work with people a lot of times and just explain, hey, it's a semi-educational endeavor, tiny snippets of clips, no audio, educational purposes. We cool? And a lot of times people, oh yeah, we cool. Like, oh yeah, because stuff picking these up, it's automated. But if you're actually talking to a human being, be like, look, I'm not uploading episodes of this stuff. That's not why I'm doing. Like, oh, okay.
Oh yes, John, our favorite thing in the world, doujinshi.
Yeah.
Self-published comics that people,
they're official. Like, that's how those work.
Obviously. I mean, someone made them, and therefore,
anyone can do them and self-publish them. They're official. That's what that means, right?
Talked about how excited she gets when receiving the manga in English.
I was putting as much sarcasm as that, as Sebastian is T there, so people know, no, that is not how those work. But they're fun. They can be fun. They can be anything, really, so you gotta watch out for that, whatever you're into, but
seeing as he is cooler than usual. It's the shallow psychology of the Japanese.
This is also another, we were talking about quote-unquote Westaboos before, like, Japanese authors are people, believe it or not, and they find different things fun. Like, if you see random English and stuff, they think that looks cool, kind of like we will put kanji and random shit on our arms for tattoos and whatnot, from Asian languages.
Reprise his role for the second season.
Yeah, when something's exotic. This was a crazy fact. And, you know what? I think it was Ian who put it out there, so it's like, hey, I don't remember, I think it was Matsuri-Con. It was Matsuri-Con in 2014. He was there because I got him to sign my little dandy plush. Oh, you were there?
Yeah, that's where I was there. I heard him say it in the room, and he basically was like, he literally, when I say he got down on his hands and knees, that's verbatim. That's what he said. He got down and he had to plead with Gen Fukunaga to get this guy back for a weekend. A person who, if you're a fan of Black Butler, you can't replace. You cannot replace. And that's happened a couple of different times for people. But for him just to say it so matter-of-factly made an imprint on my mind, it was amazing. And I'm sorry, Ian, if I got you in trouble, but I feel like it was for a good cause.
We're now in a post-Gen Funimation.
That's right, he's gone. The witch is dead.
So it's going to be weird for young people who don't remember the Gen era. The jokes we could make about that be like, oh, who played Goku? Oh, Sean Schemmel. Get that guy off the street. But again, Sean is Goku. Well, I want to save a nickel.
I'm gonna say it, and then we can go on to ghost stories because this was all you, and I love this one. I would always refer to him as Gen. Fuck you, Naga. So,
he kind of earned that nickname.
Oh, he did.
Ask Ghost in the Shell fans, ask Trigun fans,
ask Tenchimuyo fans.
Yes, this one was a lot of fun. I used, I think we showed the cover a while back, the J-Horror book by David Callett. I believe I'm saying his name right, but we weren't sure, so sorry. That's why sometimes an author will show the book or show their name, but that's why we don't have a narrator say it sometimes, is because we're not 100% sure. It's Kath. I'm pretty sure it's Khaled, not Kalat, but yeah, this was, Ghost Stories, the dub. It has gone into legend and always will be, and the time that came out and where anime localization in the industry was at that time, it really was just a unique time when that could have happened, because you had this period before people were so, or at least the masses on the internet could go, no, this is the original. I want original. I want, because I think somebody had said one time, like, it's kind of like Scooby-Doo for us, like, and that's why I was showing all these different things that are called ghost stories over there in Japan, because that's it's like Goosebumps for us, really. It's like, oh, it's spooky, but it's kind of for kids. And ADV was in a weird position of that nostalgia doesn't translate to the American audience. So what do? Well, they got the go-ahead, as Greg Ayres recounted numerous times, I'm sure, and provided a few stipulations were followed. They got to do this, and I understand if people don't like it. I love it. I love that this happened because it's so rare that this kind of thing happens. People call it, quote unquote, the first abridged series, even though that's not what abridged in the dictionary means, but I get what people are saying. But again, and that's why I'm glad you put a little snippet of
the Animax dub.
Yeah, because that one, okay, that's a faithful rendition. Now tell me how long you as an adult are going to sit there listening to that. I'm not talking the audio quality of us trying to find, this really obscure dub. I mean, like, you get bored with it. After like 3 episodes, you'd be like...
That's why Japan got bored with it.
I mean, with them, like we showed there, they kind of just... All these publishers and companies were jumping on that craze. Oh my, Ghost Stories, do something Ghost Stories. And they were just kind of over the fad at that point. So yeah, then like you said, when we don't even have that nostalgia of, oh, it's Ghost Stories, and we're being introduced to it, well, I'm sure Matt Greenfield probably realized, like, well, this is not really going to sell unless we do something, truly unique. This had never really been done before in the world of anime dubbing. People call it the original abridged series, and in a way, every single person, Little Karibo, Team 4-Star, everybody owes it to Ghost Stories, because they were kind of the first ones to go, oh, it's okay to do this. You can do this and people like it, because they kind of broke that barrier between... If you talk about Ghost Stories in this way, people don't ever bring in the, well, it's not faithful argument, but that argument comes up a lot, whether it's for kids, whether it's whatever. And so Ghost Stories kind of broke that barrier and let people kind of flex a little bit and do their own thing. And for anybody who's asking, the Animax dub doesn't actually sound that bad audio quality wise. It's just whoever recorded it had the gain cranked to like 1 billion, and so that's why it's peaking so hard and it sounds so bad. But you can tell right away, which one are you going to listen to, John? Which one would you want to listen to for a long time? Like I said, I would, again, I'm sorry, it's not to talk bad, not the actors' performances. It's faithful to what it is. That's great. It's kind of for kids. Me, as a grown adult American, I'm going to get a little bored after 3 episodes. I'm like, well, you guys, we gotta go get the ghost because the thing, and it's gonna, and the cat being like, yeah, you guys should really get that. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. For that standing up to, a Leo joke, or a born-again Christian joke, or a George Bush jab, or a Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Don't, it's no contest. I'm sorry. It's... This was tricky because... as like unreleased animes, as anything, is where it's like you don't actually have access to the thing. and something truly is kind of lost to time. And all that we had, thanks to whoever uploaded that, was like these bumpers of it, from a preview. And then that's where you go, kind of like the School Rumble one. You're like, I don't think they made another season. Here, I was starting to I was like, did this actually exist? Everybody says it did. And then finding that, you see the promo, it's like, oh, it did. This definitely existed, but
it never got put out on an official release for reasons that we mentioned in the video.
Yeah, crazy. Crazy to think what the ADV crew would Unleashed would have done with that episode.
Good God.
Hey, there's a convention idea. Somebody, get that footage, and Greg Ayers or somebody,
If there's someone who's Japanese who just happened to record that from the early 2000s, please let us know. Also, I'm sure you're going to say something, but the Anime Bomb Boys are another instance. You put me on to them. They're hilarious. And they're one of those guys that we worked with them because not only are they super polite, they're super great guys, but they deserve to be huge. They're amazing.
They do.
So go check them out.
Please do. It might be on hiatus if you're hearing this now, but they have a huge backlog, and I think they'll do it again someday. So they're great. Thank you, boys, for doing that episode. And here's another, our April 1st tradition. The joke is that it's not a joke, kind of. It's like, no, it's going to be an actual Did You Know episode. But, this was so great that Chuck was willing to do this. I've been a fan of his work for a very long time, from DBZ and Yu Yu Hakusho, and of course, Fullmetal Alchemist. This was also a great opportunity. I don't want to quite say my redemption song, because I'm still proud of the first Fullmetal with Falero. But this was one where I love Fullmetal Alchemist, and I got to come back to it and be like, okay, like you were talking about, apply what you've learned over these years, doing something. And the kind of the genesis of doing this one was, I was even thinking, doing the first Did You Know episode about it, was I wanted to do more with the Silk Road in our world, the real Silk Road. But I just didn't have anything really concrete. I didn't have a totem to wrap anything around. But then, somewhere along the line, discovered that there was this French anime magazine, and they interviewed her, and she was talking about, Silk Road. I love the idea of that. I'd love to go visit it. And I go, I see that in her work, and I just it's kind of like you were talking about when we were doing with Megalo, where you're like, I think I see it there. I think I see some Cyber City there, and then you hear confirmation. Oh, there's definitely Cyber, and you go, I knew it.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely,
because I called it. So this was great getting to, and also just very sticky whenever you were.
Drew from numerous sources in order to create the
history of all these religions, and many that you don't know. There are people who have advanced degrees in these sorts of fields of linguistic history and mythology and religious studies, and so again, I'm proud of the first one, but this one I felt like nailed it. Do we let people know? I guess we'll let people know. One of those maps, neither one of us caught it, because it was a detailed, geographically accurate map, but one of those, like in Afghanistan or one of those Middle Eastern countries, they had names like, it was like those far out pilots, like some kind of puns with like blow up or something.
Oh
like
yeah,
that. And we did not catch that.
This one.
There it is. All quiet.
Where's the roof? Kaboom.
Did not.
This is a bad. I just want to tell everybody, no, we're not racist. We did not deliberately do this because we find it funny. But it just happened to work out that it came out on April 1st. And so
really, yeah, that's also I saved our butts there a little bit.
Well, I mean, you never fucking want to believe that somebody would put something on Google, and again, it looks exactly like that. And so we ran it through, and we looked at it a couple times and didn't catch it. But you know what? That's our April Fool's Mulligan. That's our one uncle that we get on April 1st.
I think that's fair. I think that's fair. And again, it just shows it's most of the time it's just us two doing it. And so this one, I'm so concerned with all of the religious stuff, all of the historical references, getting her interview translated
from French,
and having help with that, but then localizing it and getting it to, and so just all this other stuff, and then there'll always be some little thing. Oh, you forgot.
There's always one thing that somebody. I mean, a lot of times people just find, stupid shit that's not actually there that they need to talk about. But no, this one, there's always one little bump, but I feel like if we don't have at least one thing, then either that episode was just an exception to the rule, or we were Terminators that day. No, we went back to 1984 and we got them all. That movie ended before it started. So, but no, I really enjoyed doing this episode. It was fun. I always like finding all this old stuff, all these old magazines and whatnot, because you find stuff that I just think looks interesting, you're talking about, slightly to go back to ghost stories for a second. Do you know how hard it is to Google search ghost stories? And just, that's like searching, I don't know, school in English. You're going to get a billion different things. You're never going to get anything specific. So
you had an anime named Anime, and you're like, anime? What do you mean? Which anime?
Or something with the word man, or something with the word fight.
Yeah.
Or,
it can be a headache.
We earn our stars doing the research on these episodes, that's for sure. And of course, a big thank you to Chuck for doing this. He was great to work with. He was super professional. He actually did something that is a first.
That's right.
He recorded his own video for the very end, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. I'm glad he said, he said, yeah, we'll give you a platform, Chuck. You do whatever you want at the end of the video, and so. I have. I'm not a voice actor myself, so I don't know, but I have heard good things about his classes. If you are looking to go into that profession, I would say consider letting Chuck Huber be your sensei in that, because he's certainly qualified. He's a great actor. Please come back for Yu Yu Hakusho OVAs, please, John.
Little Witch Academia. This one was, again, another example of us working with someone who we both saw a lot of potential in. Sloan, who is now doing stuff for, was that Getting the Robot? Was that the one?
Is that with Crunchyroll?
I don't remember.
Getting the Robot might be. But she's doing a lot of stuff now, and so I hope this was a bit of a help to her in that, because it's one of those things that you just happen to see somebody and you go they're probably going to get pretty big. And I think it was probably through Tony that
it was,
we got in contact with Sloan, because they're good friends, and Tony is just such an upstanding guy that it might have been, we probably even said, Tony, if you know somebody who would be able to do an episode or want to, or somebody you recommend, please let us know. And I think Tony put in a good word for her. I'm trying to remember now, but I think that was it. Oh my gosh.
The thing that's so great about working on Trigger episodes and later Gynax series and stuff like this just is all over the place. It's super easy to work on. Basically, anytime a Gynax or a Trigger show shows up, I get excited, because I'm like, it's not going to be hard. It's going to be a ton of fun. And Little Witch Academia, as you saw earlier on in the video, is super unique in that it was one of the first 3 anime that had ever been kickstarted. Anime had not been kickstarted before or crowdfunded, and just the fact that they did it and it was hilariously successful led to more Little Witch Academia stuff, led to, now we have creators like Shinichiro Watanabe being on Netflix and creating his own series there with Carol and Tuesday. it doesn't seem that big to Westerners just because we're so disconnected from it, but in a lot of ways, it was kind of like a revolution for anime in a way, because it gave creators opportunities that didn't rely on hilariously obtuse Japanese committees and the really backwards kind of traditional way that they make anime in Japan.
Or the constraints of something, it's got to fit on, and it's got to appeal, and it's got to adhere to television. So if anybody's, younger now, I think we're with Netflix and stuff like this, this is basically the modern equivalent of what OVAs used to be.
Oh yeah, we're there.
Where they would just go straight to Laserdisc or to some other home video format, and they didn't have to adhere to television. And there was such a bubble economy there, riding that boom, that it was a viable business model at that time.
This is another thing that I really love about Trigger in particular, is they'll just put in whatever they want. And so Rebecca Sugar and Ian Jones-Cordy of OKKO and Steven Universe fame, they got to be in their own anime. Can you imagine that, John? Just that being drawn, especially into a Trigger anime like that, unreal. And just this whole thing, one of my favorite times working on a Did You Know anime episode. I felt like a journalist, like trying to piece together all of the pieces in the timeline and making sure everything was put together. It was so much fun.
I'm glad you worded it that way, because we are not journalists, but doing this, there are times when we are wading into those waters.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely, we wade into academic waters a little bit, but we're always, exactly that kind of, you got to piece things together, you got to get your sources, and you don't want to put something out there that is not, that there's not some validity to it.
Fit for a renowned academy to be established into the title's world setting. That's why
There's also another thing too that I really like. I think doing comparison stuff, or like, oh, this is a reference to this or whatever, is really cool. But I like when they kind of jump outside of that a little bit and go into, old school books and like concepts that you can't just Google search. Like you can, but you have to do a little bit more legwork. You can't just rely on TV tropes to get all of your information. You have to actually look into it. And sometimes it is what it is, and you don't have to do as much. But other times you go down a rabbit hole that has sometimes almost been an entire episode for us.
I bet. I hope Pokemon fans are feeling it now, but it's also kind of cool when you see Japan's views of like American culture, like we were saying. But that's like them with Britain and British culture is kind of its own thing entirely.
Oh yeah.
Well, and so them being like, oh, magic, and they think of Western and high fantasy. Oh well, the birthplace of that is it's got to be Britain. It's got to be Great Britain. That's why they did that. So
I would kill a man to have Studio Trigger do a Record of Lodoss War series. I would cry. I would prostrate myself before whoever made that happen, because it would be unreal.
You're like Trailer Park Boys, you were just joking about it. Right, Mr. Lee? Yes, of course.
Of course.
Of course I'm not going to kill Ricky. Oh, thanks again, Sloan. And then this was pretty crazy. One is crazy nice of Brendan to do this, but also, I can't imagine how many jokes he got at the time of him being, Brendan Hunter. What are you working on now? Called Hunter Hunter. Like, really? No, Hunter. Like, yep. I'm working on. Brendan Hunter is working on Hunter. And I believe that's the pronunciation.
Yes, it's Hunter.
Hunter x Hunter. Very much like Tenchi Muyo, GXP, Digimon Cross Wars. The Japanese with X, it's a fascinating relationship to me. They will just make it mean whatever they want it to mean.
Sometimes it's just a symbol, but they don't realize to Westerners it's like that's an X. It's like that's, we will say that, we would pronounce that as ECKS.
Yeah, they'll just mean symbolic. Like, oh, it's this times this. It's this combined with this. Yeah, and it's just meant to be some kind of aesthetic to it.
The other thing I want to point out is I know a lot of people will comment on our videos and they'll give suggestions for people. We look at those comments because I got the idea to get Brendan because somebody at some point in the past, I don't remember what video, said you should do one on Hunter x Hunter and get Brendan Hunter. And I looked into who Brendan Hunter was. So even if we don't reply to your comment, we appreciate any and all comments that are like that because that stuff really does help.
You never know. And especially if it gets upvoted a lot, we'll probably see it at some point. So that's pretty cool. I didn't even know that.
Yep. Hiatus.
I remember kind of using that as an excuse too, and it was just entirely an excuse. But we wanted to do a Hunter x Hunter episode for a while, but we just, for whatever reasons again, it took us a little while to get to it, but I hope people liked it, and I, of course, much more familiar with and a fan of its older brother, Yu Yu Hakusho. And so this was an instance where, like you saw in the Full Metal one, we mentioned Inuyasha. Here we mentioned some, Yu Yu Hakusho stuff because I think it's relevant. But, it just depends on what we're doing and how much we have to work with. Like we were saying with Fist of the North Star. Well, we had plenty of stuff. We didn't need to put JoJo's in there, And here, like Yu Yu Hakusho, it's literally the same guy, who made both. It's not like Fist of the North Star with that kind of situation.
I'm pretty sure, also talking about these hilariously long hiatuses, I'm pretty sure that Togashi and Kentaro Miura get together and they talk about, they do a thing where they're like, I'm going to release mine after yours. No, you're not. And so they play a game of reverse chicken where they just don't put anything out.
Oh, man.
Fair be it though to Miura, at least he does other series. Like he does, he just released a new one not too long ago. Had like the Sumerian things in it. I don't remember right offhand, I'm sorry, but he actually does other things. He doesn't just do Berserk all the time, whereas Togashi is just kind of stuck on Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, I'm sorry if he's having some medical problems. That's, something that is getting more attention nowadays, and I'm glad, is how much, if you're doing manga or a comic artist or an animator, of how strenuous that can be on you. Man, I love seeing how much you look like Yusuke there. It's just like, man, I see you, Togashi. I see you.
Well, I mean, all of his characters, like, this was really eye-opening for me, because you're the big Togashi fan, but just looking at how he was like, I want it like Hiei, but not exactly like Hiei.
Yeah, they look different enough, but I think he puts in a lot of little things here and there where it's...
Released a mere 4 months after...
he knows who a lot of his readership is going to be, and a lot of them are going to be Yu Yu Hakusho fans.
Also, shout out to all of the people, Japanese or otherwise, who hold on to these VHS tapes from these one-time events and upload these to the internet. It's amazing how somebody will talk about this one event and, thank goodness most of the time, the Dragon Ball, One Piece, Hunter x Hunter ones, they usually get picked up because they're so big, but it's just like, that was a one-time event. It didn't happen again.
Right.
So,
talking again about, you lose sight of that with the internet, but, no, there are things sometimes where it's like they're this close. You can't see it, folks, but this close to being lost to history. And it's gone. You had to be there. It's a lovely mustache. Thank you once again, Mr. Hunter, for on Hunter x Hunter. I'm glad. I hope that shows there. Just because a new version of something comes out, it doesn't invalidate the work that other people did on an older version.
Sure.
So it's nice to see he still has a lot of fans. The 99 version of Hunter x Hunter still has fans.
Oh, absolutely.
I will always go to bat for the 90s JoJo's OVA.
The original Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yeah, as crazy as it got towards the end, because they were left in mid-flight with no compass and no map, you figure it out. It looked gorgeous and great performances, and it was still great. It was great. We got Conqueror of Shambhala out of it, which was a trippy watch, but it was great. So yeah, exactly. Don't be afraid of, alternate versions of stuff.
Well, and don't look at everything as like, just because this one follows the manga, it invalidates the other one. Because I guarantee you, I see it a lot actually with Hunter x Hunter on Twitter. I've seen a couple different times where people have compared scenes, and almost unanimously, a lot of people go, "Oh, the 99 one was better. The 99 one did that better." And so I think that instead of looking at it, or I saw it especially with Secret Star of Milos, like I saw a lot of people not happy with it when it got announced originally, and I think. As long as you're getting more of something, obviously, some exceptions to that rule, John, as we know, just take it all in. Don't if it's not quote unquote canon, that doesn't matter. Just judge it by how good it actually is and how well it tells its own story.
I mean, that's how we're both cinema people before we are comic people. That's not a hierarchy. There's nothing worse or better about that, but yeah, that's a lot of times where we are coming from, looking at something. So, for example, and I'm sorry, as though Berserk fans don't go through enough pain as it is, but that's kind of a perfect example now of like, for years, people wanted to say, wanted to like point out what the 97 series was missing. And it's like, okay, it doesn't have Puck. Okay, that's valid. But when you start ragging on it a little bit, it's like, okay, yeah, it's like the way I was raised. I don't want to eat my vegetables. Okay, eat nothing then. And pretty soon, I was pretty hungry for those vegetables. So now, Berserk 2014? 2016? Man, I lose track of time here. It follows the manga. It's exactly like the manga. Yeah, but when it looks like it was animated on the back of a potato, all of a sudden, people I think people kind of take things like that for granted.
I think they animated that on the new Wacom fucking toaster, because that thing looks horrendous. It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's stilted, and it's very much proof that just because something follows the manga doesn't mean it's good. And I hate that it happened. It had to happen to Berserk, because we both love Berserk. Mm-hmm. Berserk 97 is my favorite anime of all time. Sometimes you got to realize that you don't know what you got till it's gone.
Well, and also in life, take a 98%.
Oh yeah,
don't get 100.
Don't be that guy who's like, I got a 90. Give me a 91, dude.
I got a 98.
Take the W. You won. You passed the class.
So yeah, 97. Well, it didn't have this and that. Okay, you're not wrong, guy, but come on. So yeah, I'm sorry. The last of this was just us kind of ranting and raving, but thanks for sticking with us, folks. And again, apologies that not only was it kind of YouTube changes and practices and stuff that kind of put a damper on things, but also I think we can say now, we were working on a short film. Actually, no, it's a feature film. Anyway, we're working on an independent film. That's what I'm looking for, with Jeff Nimoy. So hopefully that'll be out soon-ish, so people can see that.
I see what you did there.
We were... we've done some work with Tiger Lab Vinyl, and they, speaking of Berserk and other things that we can't even mention right now, they are doing amazing work putting that on, having that on vinyl and easily accessible for us in the West, or in a lot of cases that didn't have a vinyl at all to begin with. And then also we mentioned, we're doing some more with Animego, and can't say everything right now, but hope to do more with them. But we were working, that would have been 2017?
For Animego?
We were working on Gunsmith Cats.
Yes.
So, yeah, so, we've been, so like we said, folks, I apologize. We've just been doing other things, but thanks for sticking with us as we're doing that, doing these things. And, I hope if you're a Gunsmith Cats fan, you enjoy it. I hope if you're, whatever the case may be, that you enjoy it. But we are going to keep doing the videos as long as we can, and doing commentary like this. And hope you guys enjoy it. So stick around.
Yeah, again, a big thank you to all of our narrators, all of the people who we work with. It's always amazing, like John was saying, coming back and doing a video after such a long time. And I know it seems like every time we're dead and people are like, oh, they came back. It's like, well, we never really left. It's just we have our hands in like 15 different pies. Like every digit on our hands is in a pie. And so some of those things just take a little bit more priority than others. But that doesn't mean that we don't love still doing Digino anime. And we still find time for it when we can. And finding time to talk about this cool stuff. And hopefully in the future, we'll have, or by the time you see this, we'll have another one coming out. Or maybe not. Either way, just follow us on Facebook and Twitter on social media and keep up with us. And we're still right here. We're not going anywhere. So, thanks, everybody.
Peace.